Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Lions Den podcast, episode 149. We're almost at 150. We're back. We're going to be talking everything Liga MX in English, Club León in English. We'll be going over quite a bit to talk about today since we haven't been on the podcast for over a week, almost 2 weeks now. I'm joined by the legendary Fiero Viajero, Luis, El Fiero Viajero. Louis, how we doing, my man?
Doing well, man. It's been a while. There's a ton to talk about since the last time we addressed our dear listeners and our avid, rabid followers. It's not an enormous following, but it's a loyal one, and we're here to discuss a whole lot that's happened since the last time we were in these airwaves.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm happy that we're back with Liga MX, but before we even get into that, I think we should just talk about the elephant in the room. That horrible Leagues Cup exit against Real Salt Lake that you were there for.
I was there
Uh,
two straight days because it got postponed the first day.
exactly. We got rained out the first day, and so
Yeah.
you had to show up the next day. What was that like? For the first of all, the rain on all the issues that were going on. What was that like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I got to the stadium early, as I always do, especially one that I've never been to before. Um, I'd already spent most of that day with friend of the show, my friend and yours, Paco Vela. He and I were the crazy loyal ones out there who were doing whatever we could to make sure to be at every Leagues Cup match. Although he got one more than I. I was unable to make the match in Carson, and he was. But we from Vancouver to Salt Lake City, we crossed paths twice, and we hung out, and then again in in San Diego on our way back to Mexico after all was said and done. So big shout out to Paco Vela. But yeah, I was hanging with him, and then we got to the stadium, and I got there early, and then just this dark rain cloud started to linger and loom over America First Field in Sandy, Utah, and I was just like, ugh, this doesn't look good, and I don't know what I'm going to do if they postpone this. But luckily, I had the flexibility in my schedule and the bondad of a few good friends that I have in Salt Lake City. I was able to make it work. I was able to stay another day
Nice.
and able to go to the the game next day, which was perfectly sunny and clear. The only thing that wasn't sunny and clear at all was the play of Club León on the pitch that day.
It wasn't the
You
first
know,
half. It wasn't the first half.
it wasn't the first half, and then I don't really know what happened. They just collapsed. I do know what happened. They the same errors that befall this team when playing lesser competition befell them again. Befell them in Mazatlán the other day. We'll get to that later. But when this team doesn't, when things aren't going well for this team, it's usually the same things that are picándoles, and you know where, and things can spiral out of control for this club if they're not ready. As good as Larcamón has been for us, he doesn't always seem to know the best course of action when things don't go exactly to plan. If something goes wrong, sometimes this team just cannot recover. And thankfully they did against Mazatlán, but they couldn't. They could not do it that fateful day. I don't really want to call it a fateful day in the grand scheme of things. That elimination from Leagues Cup is not all that important. But that fateful day in Sandy, Utah, things spiraled out of control as soon as the plan went against them, was no longer in their favor. As soon as the circumstances were no longer in their favor, things just spiraled out of control, and that's concerning going forward. That's the biggest thing for me about that is the concerns that brings on going forward. They have to address that issue. They have to be able to bounce back.
Yeah.
They kind of did against Mazatlán, but they're some better equipped teams are going to make us pay for these types of descuidados. We have to be able to We have to be able to stay firm and keep playing our game when things go wrong. And we just could not do it in Sandy. And that's, I mean, more than anything else, more than getting eliminated from Leagues Cup, more than what it meant for our CCL 24 hopes, CCC 24 hopes, which we later found out were not dashed that night, but were dashed anyway because of a poor performance down the stretch by Monterrey. Thanks a lot, guys. I was totally willing to dislike your franchise a lot less than I do, but you completely let me down, and you will be hearing the full brunt of my boos next time I see León play Monterrey in person, which may not be this season because it's a midweek match. But that's the biggest concern. It's not the Leagues Cup itself, and we've all shared our opinions about what that tournament even means, what its value is on this podcast. I'm still of the opinion that it was a tournament that was worth playing, but being eliminated from it in and of itself is not the concerning thing. The concerning thing mostly is what it mean, how we played in that match, what it could mean going forward. It's puzzling, it's baffling because, I'm just going to lump in that match with the match against Mazatlán because there were a lot of similarities between the two. Teams that are much more limited roster wise compared to León. I mean, basically the only way they can beat us is by our own mistakes, and any team in the world can hurt you in open space on the counter, no matter what kind of individualidades their players possess. We can have all the skill in the world, we can outskill any team, but if we don't take care of the fundamentals, any team on the face of the earth, a college team, a high school team, I feel like Jim Mora in his playoffs rant, for those who follow the NFL at all. But I mean, any team on earth can hurt you in open space on the counter if you're going to give them the space, they can hurt you. And it happened. It happened 3 times against Salt Lake, and it happened against Mazatlán, and that's concerning. I mean, we got to clean that up because we've seen this team be completely locked down. I mean, over the course of the end of that CCL run against Tigres and against LAFC, when León was playing the best that it has so far under Larcamón. I mean, they were locking fools down. I mean, look at that Vuelta against LA. Yeah, I mean, they had some chances, but by and large, I mean, they were putting forth every last ounce of effort. Our opponents were, that is. They were putting out every last ounce of effort that they had just to try to find opportunity to ocasionarnos daño, and it's been a lot sloppier since then. What can I say? It's been a lot sloppier since then.
How much do you think the the whole travel and having games postponed, having flights delayed, and just playing away from home overall, how much do you think that had an effect on the group?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that cannot be ignored, for sure. I don't want to make excuses, but I mean, of course, Liga MX clubs that, it seems like a distant memory now, but a few Liga MX clubs started off absolutely dominating the Leagues Cup, and then the farther along they got into it, the more they broke down. And obviously, teams like Monterrey and Tigres got a little farther because they have the deepest rosters. Monterrey probably has the deepest roster in CONCACAF. Maybe not the best roster in CONCACAF, but certainly the deepest roster in CONCACAF. And so it's no surprise that they were the last team standing, but even they started to wear down towards the end. Although I do think if they played a first choice lineup, they could have won that game against Philadelphia. And if they had, we would be in CONCACAF champions right now. But that's neither here nor there.
I don't know why they didn't
obviously
do it anyway. I mean, they should have at least played to win that match. I mean, just to bring the guys' spirits back up as a team. Like, you want your guys to come out of the Leagues Cup with the win, head back to Liga MX with the victory, under your belt, not with 2 losses.
Well, that's why I said I didn't want. I would love to not have beef with that team anymore. But Tano Ortiz, after that, he went on record and he literally said, "I saw no reason for us to try to win this game." That is what he said. And I was like, Obviously, it's not in his it's not his responsibility to look out for the best interests of León, but no reason whatsoever to try to win that game. Come on, man, especially with how embarrassing it was down the stretch for Liga MX in that tournament. Like, to save some kind of face, get at least a third place finish, I feel like would have meant something, regardless of what it meant for our club. But he didn't feel that way, and so this is the situation we're in. But yeah, no, I mean, I think all the travel, I mean, León was perjudicado 2 times, not just once, but twice over the course of Leagues Cup. First with the canceled flight from Vancouver, and then and obviously the postponed match in Salt Lake City. I mean, like, that obviously, I think that did have an effect, but I don't want to make excuses. I think, especially with the way they played in that first half against Salt Lake City, there's nothing for me to say that in just 45 minutes it should all collapse like in the way that it did. I mean, they had that game measured. They had that opponent measured. They had that game under control. And then in 45 minutes, for really, I get no reason that I can really understand, it all fell apart. I mean, I think we could have gone farther in this tournament. And it's disappointing that we didn't. And then especially disappointing that we didn't because of what it meant for our CCL chances ultimately down the stretch.
Yeah,
it's funny.
It almost feels like shout out to Arturo Ruiz who just showed up in the chat. It almost feels like we were already showing signs of like degrading physical, like we just weren't there all the way. And we started with Vancouver. Against Vancouver, we didn't look that great. It was a come from behind win. Against Galaxy, I mean, Galaxy, no offense to them, but they were not playing well, and we really had
Still
a chance
aren't.
yeah. And we really had to claw and like fight our way through for just to score one goal against them. I mean, that's it's a little embarrassing. But then you get to Real Salt Lake, you play 45 dominant minutes in which you were supposed to be up 3-0 at the half, and then you just have a complete collapse in the second half. Let's get Javier in here and see what Javier thinks.
Yeah. Well, as he's getting on, just to finish that thought, yeah, I mean, that's the other big monkey on our back that hopefully, since we've added a few new pieces since then, hopefully things might be a little bit different on that front. But when you don't finish your chances, your clear chances, when you're dominating an opponent and you don't finish your chances, you leave yourself open to what happened. I mean, if we'd been up 3-0, even if they scored 3, I mean, the worst that would have happened was that we'd go to penalties. And so you got to finish your chances. It just hasn't been a strength of ours at any point since, I mean, quite some time. Honestly, we haven't had, I mean, I think I've gone on record saying this on a previous episode of this podcast, but it bears repeating because it continues to be a problem. We haven't had an elite finisher since JJ Macias, like an elite number 9 finisher.
Yeah.
And obviously Angel Mena was an elite finisher for part of his time here, but that's not his role.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be his role. He's much more of a creator than he is a finisher. He just has been kind of thrust into that role because a shout out to him for a really, really, really nice goal, turn back the clock, vintage Angel Mena goal against Mazatlán the other day, which we'll get into in a bit, I'm sure. But yeah, we haven't had an elite number 9. We haven't had an elite number 9 or an elite finisher to act as a number 9.
Well,
my apologies to Diorio. Apologies to Diorio, who had a few really nice and obviously important, memorable moments in that role. But I just don't think he was that. I don't think he was him. He wasn't him. The last person who was him was JJ Macias.
Yeah.
And we're going on 4 years then without an elite finisher up front. Shout out to Gigliotti also, who had some very, very nice moments.
Yep.
But I mean, we remember them more for the moment than for, him being an elite finisher. So, that's just when you're dominating a team, but you don't finish your chances, you just leave yourself open. You leave yourself open to exactly what happened in Salt Lake. Now, hopefully now with Viñas, and welcome to Diente Lopez, who we have not mentioned yet on this show, because it wasn't I believe it wasn't even it hadn't even been mentioned as a possibility the last time we recorded an episode.
Yep.
But welcome to him, and welcome to a healthy Viñas. Just an absolute world-class goal also that he scored against Mazatlán the other day, and that's just something we haven't had up front. So hopefully the pair of those guys can change our fortunes going forward to finishing. And then, if we score, if we get 3 clear chances and we score all 3, then it won't matter what they try to do to us in the second half. So I mean, those are 2 things. But again, I'm going to say it right here. I'm going to say it loud and proud. Viñas and Diente are not going to help us defend the counter. They're not going to help us close down spaces in a counterattack. Nothing they can do is going to help with that. We need our stalwarts who have shown they've been just a rock back there. I'm talking to you, Adonis Frias. I'm talking to you, Barreiro. I'm talking to you, Tecillo. I mean, I'm even talking to you, Ivan Moreno. You have been probably Leon's best player since we retomamos actividades after the Conca Champions. I mean, he's probably been Leon's best player, and maybe even before that. I mean, he's arguably been Leon's best player for quite some time.
Yep.
But I mean, he's not immune to criticism, and also Larcamón for insisting on using that línea de cinco, which just never seems to work. I don't know why he insists in using it.
It never works. I mean,
it never works. He found something that worked, and he's gone away from it, and I don't understand it.
Like, I don't know if he wants to like try to recreate the same game that he had at Puebla, but somebody needs to tell him, like, this is not Puebla. This is León. We have our own style. Like, stop trying to bring stuff over from Puebla that worked for you there, and try to make it work here. Like, you won a CCL with a backline of 4, with the CEO playing the left back position, and you have not used him there once this season. Oh my goodness, what is he thinking?
Somebody needs we finished the game against Mazatlán that way when Osby was subbed off. But yeah, he hasn't started a game that way. And speaking of Osby, if he never gets another minute, I'll be fine. Like,
he's been terrible.
I mean, he's never been great. He's been serviceable for very short periods of time, and now he's just bad, and I don't want to see him anymore.
I hope we have some offers out there for him. Anyways, let's welcome in Javier. Javier, man.
Yo, no, I agree. I think lo de Losby, con que no sea titular, like he's fine jugando, I don't know, having them there. Pero I like what you guys are saying, like to see you left back, yeah, that's where he's supposed to be, I think. So I don't know what he's doing either when it comes to that. No more línea de cinco. I agree.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Arturo Ruiz. He's the one that said no more línea de cinco on the chat. How much of an effect do you guys think the absence or the sudden removal of Victor Davila had on this team? Because let's kind of segue into that, but let's quickly talk about what was there some kind of mental or emotional impact on the guys just having their best player, their MVP, just suddenly snatched from the starting 11?
I'm just glad the situation is over. I'm glad I'm not glad he's gone, but if he was going to leave, I'm glad he's not lingering around La Esmeralda, still being forced to train with the team, but not being able to play. Like that did no good for anybody. That was just sending weird vibes through the organization, and I'm glad that situation is resolved now.
Yeah.
And now it can all be love. Now he's gone, so we don't have to. All we can do is wish him the best, and that goes for fans, Directiva, players, coaches, whatever you want. I'm just glad that saga has mercifully come to an end, so we can move on and move forward with Club León.
Yeah, he's no longer part of the team. but he left a nice bag, 12 million.
He left a nice bag, of which we didn't spend nearly all of it to get Diente. So hopefully there's still some left over to make the team even better.
You guys know how much we spent on Diente?
Well, I heard various things about it being a free transfer or it being 3 million. Those were the two that I heard most frequently.
All I heard was that they offered him that was the first offer, around 3 million, and they had said no Tigres at first, and then I've heard someone say that que llegó el Diente López gratis y que bueno el precio. I've heard many things on Twitter. It's kind of hard to, like, in the last couple of days for me to kind of have confirmation, like, how much did he cost? But usually those are the things that, man, I do want to know, because in the past I used to care a lot about one of the things that we hated, and I think it's half and half. I agree with the people attacking Victor David. Not agree with it, but I understand where they're coming from. Yeah, I understand what the other group is coming from, where we're like, hey, but at least he left us something. Because in the past, I think since León ascendió, everything started off well. Brito was the first goal that I remember, that like 2012, and I was just kind of always paying attention to like how much of these players cost. Muñoz Mustafa, like I remember that first squad specifically because I remember the squad that they had in El Ascenso, and the first thing I remember cuando ascendió León, Orbañano said it on television, like, no crean, le van a invertir a este equipo. That's when I was really interested in this, like, oh, okay, so for the first time León has money in that way, and I was kind of always interested to see who was going to come to León. But I think one of the things that I always kind of disliked about Directiva was that they would pay a lot of money for some players, and then they would just kind of loan them off, and then they'll just and what happened to that inversión, and that's one of the things that I'm really hoping they'll kind of be better at. And I think with Davila, like that's what it is. Like he's going to leave a lot of money that can be reinvested in the club. But yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah, and so speaking of Davila, he was introduced today in Moscow. There were pictures flying around.
Yeah, the picture.
Instagram. Yeah,
Kari was making fun of and
yeah, he's finally introduced. So I guess it's all official now. He's no longer part of León. We no longer have to worry about him. Good luck to him. He left a nice bag. We can now finally move on. The saga is over.
Yeah, but look, to your original question, I do think it affected the team. I think the fact that they gave him the number 10, I think Larcamón, I heard, was the one that said, hey, dale 10, because I guess he saw him as in that role. And I think him leaving, there's another thing that I understand why people are mad, because also I think, hey, man, like, falta de comunicación. If you wanted to have any kind of desire to leave, and I don't know what started it. I don't know if it was the whole Chavez. Like, I don't know if that's really what started it.
I'd like to think that started it.
Yeah, because it's crazy, right? Like that happened, and it was like in his mind, he's like, "Wow, I want to do the same thing." It wasn't like he was like. That's why it's so weird, because it was like, man, could you have not waited like right now? Like, can you after the Leagues Cup was over? Could you have not? Because like one of the things about Leagues Cup is like, all right, I think with Davila, we would have played way better those games against Vancouver and Galaxy, man. And I think the game against Real Salt Lake wouldn't have gone down like that. But then again, maybe it would have. Who knows? I don't know. But just how I say it is, I think que no hay que perder eso en la mira, because I think now with our nuevos refuerzos, and I think we saw Viñas, man, I think it is what it is. But con un equipo completo, bien armado, bien trabajado, con este técnico que a lo mejor va right now experimentando, maybe línea de 3, línea de 5, who knows? But I think if things continue to darles tiempo y trabajo, I think this León is scary, man. Like I'm hearing it through the N and everything, like they're talking about it like que delantera, y con Arcamón. So there is like I could see like, okay, man, yeah, it's just equipo de ritmo y trabaja más y juega más. Yeah, but I think that's the thing about the Leagues Cup, because that León is not the same León that faced LAFC in La Final. So it is what it is, like in any way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure.
It was it was an awkward moment to lose your best player, absolutely. Like in the middle of a tournament, it was maybe a tougher ask than we would have thought to have them go into an elimination game against Salt Lake without Davila, But I think there's a reason this delantera is getting hyped up so much. I mean, I think it's got a chance to be superb, sublime. I mean, Viñas and Diente could end up, if they both stay healthy, could end up being one of the best duplas in Liga MX. And then you think about everything else they have behind. Also getting Fidel Ambriz back. I think it was revealed today that he hasn't been starting because he took a knock in the Juegos Centroamericanos, and getting him healthy. I know Davila was the MVP of the CCL, but there are arguments to be made that Fidel Ambriz was the best player. So, getting back all of our pieces and then having that delantera up front as soon as they get a couple games together. I don't know if Diente, I wouldn't imagine Diente is going to start, but I imagine he will play against San Luis. And then on Saturday against America, my guess is Diente will not start against San Luis, and then he will start against America. And then that game against America will probably be the first time we see that Viñas playing against his old team, that Viñas and Diente dupla in all of its splendor. Ooh. That's what I'm hoping for.
How do you guys feel about Diente getting number 17? That's Boselli's number.
Well, considering Jorge Diaz-Price had it, I don't think we can complain too much.
Yeah.
That's true.
I was going to say, look at all the people.
Though.
He never played, but we knew he had that number. I never forgot it.
Yeah, man, unless León retires number 17, it should not be controversial, man. Like, if anything, it should be an honor in that sense. Like, cada quien que se ponga el 17 de León, pues la van a recordar que el Matador had that number, and that should be a pressure in itself. But other than that, like if León wears number 35, then we have a problem, because I think that is a number that they should retire, like the Nacho Gonzalez, just because it's such a unique number, and it is hard. Like, like I don't know. I think I forget what year it was, but El Diez de Napoli, Diego, like that was retired like in the 80s or something, and it was like you can't retire number 10 because you kind of need the numbers for like torneos oficiales and stuff like that. But number 35, you can definitely retirar ese. But number 17, I think it's cool that Viñas has that. Viñas, that Diente Lopez has that number, and I think he is going to be just like that it is. I get the hype. I can see it. I just don't want to get too like decepcionado. So I'm this is the very first game still. Vamos a ver. Like hay que darle tiempo, no, a esta delantera de León, but it looks better honestly than before Leagues Cup started, even including Davila, just because of the hype that it could become. But Viñas, people were saying, people Americanistas would tell you like good riddance. So that sucks, but in a way it's kind of cool, because like let's say he has a partidazo against America, and then I'll be el más feliz soy yo, Javier. So yeah, I like that. I like that he came to León, and I like that delantera.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've said on here before, I'm not really a fan of number retirement in soccer, just because of what the numbers, like you were saying, Javi, what the numbers mean for the positions on the field. That applies, basically it only applies in football. Soccer. It doesn't really apply that way in any other sport. No. It just doesn't. So I'm not a fan of retiring any numbers. Obviously, it's mostly the numbers 1 through 10 or 1 through 10 that matter the most, or 1 through 11, I guess.
Roberto Clemente's number was when he passed away, like situations like that, right? Like you kind of see in other sports, but when in soccer, it's difficult because of you're right. Yeah. Sorry.
So, I don't mind that he uses the number 17. Also, it's just kind of a, yes, it was Boselli's number, but it's also just kind of a random number. Like, it doesn't have a ton of significance other than the fact that Boselli used it. It's not like the number 10,
Yeah. If anything, it's like, Boselli is the greatest number 17 that León has ever had. Like, that's without a doubt. Like, I've looked in the past and
up until now.
Up to now,
we know what Diente is capable of. He just won the scoring title a couple of years ago.
Well,
triplete el Manchester City in la final. Come on, bro! Like he does that, and then we're talking about a god amongst us.
Also, like there are arguments. There are arguments that as good as Boselli was, Chapo was more important to this franchise. But you're obviously not going to retire the number 10. They already gave it to Davila.
Can't.
And and they're not going to retire that number. You just cannot retire that number. But Chapo was arguably more important than Boselli to the history of the franchise.
Yeah. Shouts to Arturo Ruiz. He said that first half against RSL was probably some of the best football I've seen León play. And he followed that up with the second half was some of the worst I've seen them play too.
You were there, Louis.
I was there 2 nights.
That's crazy, man. I think about the fact that if I would have been down there, I would have been so mad because I live in I would have been in Ogden. That's kind of far away. So
hey, do you want to shout out Arturo Ruiz for meeting him out there? I don't think we've mentioned that.
Oh
yet.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh. Well,
that's
yeah,
right,
shout
Arturo.
out.
We shared a brief saludo there on day 2.
Mhm.
And if I'm not mistaken, he told me he drove back to Idaho the first night and then came back the next day. So that's some devotion.
Even crazier.
That's some dedication. So big shout out to Arturo for that.
3
And
hours or something.
I know, dude.
lovely to meet you, even just for a few minutes.
I wonder how long that
there in the
drive
stadium.
was.
I'm always.
How long was it, Arturo? So I'm like saying 2.5 or something. 3.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because from Ogden,
he'd have
like
to tell us. But yeah, I'm always happy to acknowledge people who recognize me in the warpath. But it's especially nice when they are listeners of the show. So yeah, big shout out there.
3 hours. Wow, dude, that's a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
2 days back to back.
Yeah, I was.
Shout out to Alejandro Collazo. I don't know if have we seen Alejandro before? I think he's new. He's new to the chat. Shout out to Alejandro. Thanks for joining us.
Maybe a long-time listener, but a first-time poster.
Probably. Like
he said, as soon as we concede, we have these brain farts where it seems like we hit a reset button and learn how to play the sport. Yeah, that's exactly what happens, right? Like we concede, and then suddenly we're like in desperation mode. Like we got to score now.
That's a concerning thing. Like it just can't keep happening going forward. Teams like RSL, teams like Mazatlán, the only way they're going to be able to hurt us is the way they did, off of our own mistakes and leaving too much space for the counter.
And I think that's why esta victoria contra Mazatlán has to be kind of like, all right, because we know that's true in a way. Like every time we concede, it just feels like anímicamente, I don't know what it is, but I guess se trabaja eso. It's just kind of a long time ago. I remember someone saying like, este equipo tiene la ventaja porque tiene más experiencia ganando finales, and I'm like, what does that even mean? How do you have experience? It's not like every player that was on that first 3 championships are there. Some are gone, but I guess what that really just means is some players are just, they get used to it. They get used to that kind of pressure. And if it's like your first time, that could be said about that last final, Chivas Tigres. I think Tigres didn't even try to win it, but they just had so much experience, and Chivas just panicked at the end. That's kind of how it seemed. And it's things que se trabaja, and usually happens when you're a young player. But man, I think León has a lot of problemillas, but I think one of the lesser ones, in my opinion, in a way, could be probably just defensively working more on like not how do I say it? But I guess just defensively not giving up la pelota mucho, like retener más, and then kind of just como Leo tiene un estilo like you said, Carlos. I agree. I think teniendo laterales como Iván Moreno and Tecillo are very dangerous. So línea de tres, I think if we switch that, like those little things, then other players like Viñas and Diente Lopez can shine a little better.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's gonna be interesting to see these two guys up there. I'm excited. I'm actually really excited, especially for Diente Lopez, because he never really got a fair shot at Tigres, and like he left Tigres knowing he never got a fair shot. And it almost seems like all these players that León gets are players that have a chip on their shoulder. When we first got Ángel Mena, he was on the bench at Cruz Azul, and he was supposed to be their star signing. We got JJ Macias, who was kind of like the kid who was like, "Hazte pa' allá." Chivas was like, "Hazte pa' allá," like we don't need you. Diente Lopez, obviously he was on the bench. Viñas never really got to play in America. So we got like all these players, this group of players that are like out to prove something.
Yeah, I wanted to add something that was kind of like in the same like wavelength. That's exactly the thing about Diente Lopez too, because he's a player, man. He's known for what he could do. And I think with Tigres, you're right. He did not, no fue esa bomba que pensaron que iba a ser when he came to Tigres. Someone was saying like he doesn't look so happy to be in León. First, those little comments that I was reading, and then someone else put like, did you see him when he first got to Tigres? And like that's just his face or whatever. But I think just because of the logical sense that he's probably wants to get that chip off his shoulder, is that we should really, como dije, watch out for León y esta delantera, because Viñas is the same way. They were making fun of him. Le decían, maravillas, de que tiene de, but I think ese gol que hizo fue una maravilla. So I think these two players tienen mucha, no sé, tienen ganas de demostrar. Yo creo que they came to the best team possible.
Y son compatriotas.
Son, yep, charruas.
Yeah, for sure.
They could probably the best two charruas of all time. Not debatable, but we'll see. Like if this 3-4 years, I look back in the past, I'm like, hey man, there were some great ones. But I think
well, there was
they have that
too,
potential. Right? Matias Britos, Sebastian Mas are the lately, or the ones that, because the other ones have come. Fede Martinez, was he? Yeah, he was Uruguayo.
Yeah.
Who was Uruguayo?
I think that was it.
Oh, there's somebody else too. Man, I hate when this happens. But yeah, like I think these two have como en nombre. Now another thing which uno que jugó in the 70s y well, no ganó nada, pero llegó a esas finales con Cruz Azul y Toluca. But yeah, just because of that.
That penalty. Arturo Ruiz says, let's be legit. They robbed Mazatlán on that penalty. There's an angle that shows that there was 2 touches. There's one angle. I think Marca Claro uploaded it. So Arturo Ruiz, go on Marca Claro's YouTube page or Twitter page, but they upload like a clear angle where you can see that it touches both feet. I don't know if you guys saw it, but what do you guys think? I know live.
I didn't. Most of the replays I saw. Well, if you watch any replay in real time, if you watch any replay in real time, it doesn't look like there's 2 touches. But that's what VAR is for. I mean, you slow it down and you look at it from every angle. That's why we have this technology.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on record saying whether it was fair or not, it was a pretty weak call. I mean, but it went in our favor, and Lord knows there have been a ton of those types that have not gone in our favor. So VAR giveth and VAR taketh away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, imagine how many times has VAR not gone our way when it should have, and then one time it does go our way, it's like it's this bad of a call.
Como puta madral, like a bunch of times, bro. Like just a bunch. Like it is what it is. To me, it was like, okay, I could see how, but once, I mean, I thought I couldn't believe it. Once, see, this is how you know, like you're not sure, because it's kind of like when you're like, what are they checking, and then it surprises you what they're checking. You're like, doble toque. Like me, I should have been like, oh heck yeah, this is good. But even I was like, what? That's weird. And then once you kind of just saw what it was, I'm like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Like, I'll take it. I don't want 3 points, and also at the end of the day, es más que los 3 puntos, es que este equipo anímicamente mejor, because hay una diferencia de haber empatado este partido a ganarlo and then coming in to face San Luis. I think it would have been a different, who knows, at times it's beneficial, at times it's not, but I think it's way, way, way better that it was a goal. And like Louis said, say it, Louis, VAR taketh.
VAR giveth and VAR taketh away. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've been, I feel like over the course of VAR's history, we've been hurt by it more than we've been helped by it. So I'm not going to be too upset about this.
Here's a really good take by Alejandro Collazo. My 2 cents regarding the striker situation. I feel we've always had the supporting cast, but the Directiva always decides to cheap out and go for an experiment option. Yeah, I mean, that's what Nick Ehlers was, right? He was just an
There you
experiment.
go. And Arturo says Nick Killer. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind
that
of
was-
what Brian Rubio is. Although I feel like he has a little bit more potential.
I think so too. I think he has a little potential because he's really tall, so he has the size. But
More potential than Nick Keeler? Bro, you
Yeah.
can't have more
Yes.
potential than a guy named Nick Keeler. He's had all the potential in the world, but as soon as he stepped on that field, yeah. It was a
Brian
different
Rubio
thing.
has already scored Liga MX goals. Nick
Hold
Killer
on,
didn't
bro.
do that even once.
What did you call
so-
him? What'd you call him, bro?
Brian Rubio?
Carlos, what did you say he likes to be called, or what? Like, how do you pronounce his
Oh,
name?
Brian.
Oh, Brian Rubio. Yes.
Hey man,
Brian Rubio.
put some respect on my my
Brian
man,
Rubio. Brian
Rubio's
Rubio
name.
has already scored goals for León, both in Liga MX and in Conca Champions. So
Isn't it crazy
he's
that he didn't score once though? I felt like he was
Yeah.
cursed or something.
Well,
That was-
he was inches away from scoring in the final. a goal that
It was
wouldn't have mattered.
ridiculous. Yeah.
A goal that wouldn't have mattered anyway, but he was inches away from it.
Poor man, and I think he's killing it. He's killing it right now in Argentina. So it's like,
Well,
is
I
what it is.
wish him the best.
Yeah, he won. At least he won for us a title that's in video game format. But during the pandemic, and many of us remember that COVID era as freaking Nick Keeler playing video games for León.
Whatever happened to Ibanez?
Ibanez is playing for Tigres.
Is he
Grupo
playing or is
Pachuca-
he bench warming?
No, he's playing. He's playing. No, Grupo Pachuca did drop the bag on Ibanez. Unfortunately, he went to the other club. He didn't come to our club. And then he got sold to Tigres. Yeah, he's taking that not so highly coveted second striker spot in Tigres, where you might play. You'll definitely play when Gignac is inevitably injured, but other than that, you might not get a ton of minutes. I mean, that was kind of Diente situation, no?
Yeah,
And then they had Gignac, Diente, and Ibanez, and now now Gignac is back fully healthy, so they didn't need all three.
Yeah. The one I wish
Yeah.
we could have dropped the bag on is Berterame when we
Yeah.
had the chance to,
For sure.
when he was in San Luis, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of San Luis, this is a good segue. We're playing San Luis in 2 days. Is this at home or away, Louis?
San Luis is away.
Away. So are you going to be there?
Yeah. Luckily, it's close enough that I can go and come back the same night, as Javi and I did once.
Nice.
yeah, that was cool, man. Like I got
Yeah.
beers out of that. Like some dudes next to me.
Yeah.
where we're talking about sports.
Oh, I
And,
remember. It was at the the away opener.
That was our.
It
That
was
was our
a
season
Diorio
opener.
had like his best game, to be honest. Like, well,
That was
of
Diorio's
course, and
debut.
that-
That was Diorio's debut with the team, and he scored in stoppage time.
In that
to get us the
torneo.
win. Yeah.
yeah,
That's when Fede Martinez scored, right?
yeah, he
like
did.
Golazo?
Tiro libre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was surprised because I didn't know he had that in his arsenal. I'm like, that's cool. Have players get, because he looked like that's his specialty too. I mean, from that position. So, man, it is what it is. But I remember that game really, really well because people were surprised by Diorio. And, like, now that he's with Pachuca, igual, le deseo lo mejor. But it's definitely una plaza muy difícil, I think, for León because it's in that region where I think León es el grande o es el históricamente el más triunfador. And in that whole, Bajío Central region, I think everybody wants to beat León, to be honest. So whenever, y luego por la cercanía de León a esas ciudades, da mucha gente de León. So it does cause, a lot of
Is there usually a good
rivalry tension.
turnout?
Huh?
Is there usually a good turnout of León fans there?
I would say,
Yeah, for sure.
Louis, yeah, right? Yeah, like San Luis,
Yes, for
Querétaro,
sure.
Aguascalientes.
I don't know about this time because it's late on a Wednesday night and like people have to work
Yeah.
on Thursday. Like I know
Yeah.
a big contingent of the people that like the people that I know who Javi met briefly last time we were there. I think a good chunk of them are not going to be there this time. Also, I think a lot of them are saving their energy, time, and money for Saturday at the Azteca.
Yeah.
Facts. San Luis is one of these teams that just they pester us, and they can score on us, and they can eliminate us from playoff contention.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a narrative that hasn't been talked about much because León went on to win Conca Champions after that, so nobody really remembered or cared about them getting eliminated in repechaje. But this was the team that eliminated us in repechaje,
Yes,
and
did.
they definitely have some weapons that can
Yeah.
hurt us. That we have to
Yeah.
be careful of. I mean,
Def-
I just get afraid every time I see John Murillo, the Venezolano, on the ball, and I also
Yeah.
think about how good would he be for León? Like that's like our weakest spot is left wing.
Yeah,
Like
left wing.
that's if we had him on a left wing. I know Elias has
Oh
done
man.
admirably. He's had a renaissance. He's been great.
But you know, you got to think in the future.
But he's not really a left winger. He's been playing out of position. And so like I just imagine having somebody like John Murillo, what that could do for León. But I know he's going to be a pest. He always is. I can't remember who's the other one. Is it
Vitinho?
Vitinho? Vitinho, yeah, the Brazilian
I was
still
thinking of
there.
him.
He was trouble for us last time as well.
Yeah, he was.
So yeah, they do have some weapons up front there. They're going to cause us problems, and if we're not on our game, I mean, just imagine how Mazatlán hurt us with, you know,
Yeah.
I can't even name hardly any of their players except for Akeloba, who scored. I don't even remember who gave him the pass. That's how irrelevant their roster is. But if that irrelevant of a roster can hurt us, I mean, guys like Vitinho and John Murillo are going to hurt us too, even more. And especially playing at their place, it's not going to be easy. I mean, they're above us in the table right now. I know it's only been 4 jornadas, but they're above us in the table right now. This is not going to be a pushover team. I do think León overall is obviously has a more talented roster. If everything goes to plan, that's been the issue lately. Things not going to plan and not being able to find a plan B. But you know, I think you know, if everything goes to plan, we have every opportunity to beat this team.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got to be careful. We got to be careful. It's not going to be easy against these guys.
As far as I know, only Jardine is the only person that left, right? From San Luis that eliminated us.
Yeah, I don't even know who replaced him.
I don't either, but I think it's again, it's a team like you said, Louis. They're above us on the table and they're playing well, and it's a team that I know in their stadiums hacen fuertes. Y más si es un equipo que para ellos, you know, their rivalry is against Querétaro. But I'm telling you, man, when León gets to play there, it does feel kind of like that's the second team that they most want to beat. So probably America or Chivas Los Grandes, you know, but like just the fact that la cercanía, like I know for a fact that that's one of those games where there are never easy cuando León juega de visitante, but it is fun porque a veces there are turnouts, like a bunch of turnouts, like Querétaro, that's the best one, cuando hay mucha gente de León o contra Necaxa en Aguascalientes. But it's not going to be easy, but León, this is a great game because this is the team that eliminated us. So even if they don't have Jardine and even our team changed too, doesn't matter. We're going to see like what León could be really made out of. I think this is one of the games, one of them, especially because America is coming up. So we're going to see how esa doble jornada León va a poder, you know, show what they're capable of, you know.
So do you guys want to do a quick prediction on León versus San Luis, or do you guys want to talk about America real quick since we're not going to be able to do a podcast before that, and then we'll just do all the predictions all at once? What do you guys want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to
do? Might as well predict both games.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
as well.
Let's talk about America then. America, who just came off of a draw last night. Was it a draw?
It was a draw.
Right?
It was a draw against Atlas. Yeah.
Mucha polémica. Atlas actually like tore them down. They were playing pretty well. I don't know if you guys watched it, but it was a good match. America looks pretty dangerous on that right wing with Kevin Alvarez. So it's gonna be fun watching that matchup with who is it? Tecillo, probably. I don't know. But these America León games always instant classics. There's always good highlights after the game. There's always a lot to talk about. Obviously, last season with the referee kneeing Victor Davila.
Where did he kneel, Carlos?
In the you know.
No, look, that's why come on, bro. León America for the next couple of games are going to always be interesting because as long as Pedro Romero is with us, like it's always going to be a constant reminder of. Do you guys remember that time? And
it was Romero, right?
It was Pedro Romero. You said Davila, but it was Pedro.
I said Davila.
That would have been even funnier though. Now that he's like he left Mexico because that would have been even crazier as he got to Russia. Like this is the guy who got kicked in the balls. But yeah, like I think regardless of that incident in itself, because also I think what Jardine is now el técnico, but also what made that the whole thing was Tan Ortiz and la pelea con Arcamón. That's why
Oh
también los
yeah.
partidos de Monterrey contra León, that the next coming up games, el morbo va a ser eso. But I think León cuando juegan en Azteca, for whatever reason, something happens. It's like they understand and representing. It's like León is representing the city in la capital en la gran Tenochtitlan, and they have to win for us. And and some players understand it like that. And it is what it is. You get partidazos. I remember so many games where, like, I think una vez allá León le ganó y era el América de Nacho Ambriz, and I think right afterwards renunció, and like just situations like that. Leon's always been like in that kind of America history.
Yeah, one of my favorite
Contra
memories is like,
Piojo,
yeah, one of my
making,
favorite memories is like Boselli scoring on Moises. What's his last name?
Munoz.
Moises Munoz, and Germán Cano and Boselli linking up for a golazo de Boselli. I don't know if you guys remember that one at the top of the box. Oh man, so many good memories playing against America.
pues la final,
La final.
el gol de Boselli y sobre todo el gol de Nacho, porque gol de Nacho, like la celebración, and
Yeah.
having next to him Rafa Márquez, Boselli y el Gulli, like that was man, that was it, man. That was one. I think Larcamón has every con esta Conca Champions y lo que puede hacer en el Mundial de Clubes, and then the return of la Interamericana, which has historically been one of my favorite tournaments. People back in the day, it meant a lot, like in the 70s especially. La Interamericana de América when they beat Boca Juniors con un golazo de Carlos Reynos. But the whole thing is that León with Larcamón has an opportunity to win tournaments in an age where I think, imagine this, man, like why La Interamericana to me is kind of interesting because the whole Messi phenomenon. How many people do you think saw the game, the Nashville versus Miami? People that are Messi lovers all over the world. And like, I think for León, this is perfect, man. It's like a way to grow. If one of the things that I love the most about Jesus Martinez Patiño on ESPN, he was saying that every team every dueño should look at their teams como una industria, like a sort of like your own company, right? So yeah, man, like of course you want your brand to grow, and I think going to Mundial de Clubes is gonna do that. Jugando una Interamericana is also gonna do that. Also, yeah, you gotta invertirle, you gotta bring players, man. You gotta just bring players to win these tournaments. But I think León historically has had great coaches que hacen de poco muchas cosas grandes. But Larcamón can really make great things out of this León team porque tiene un estilo que históricamente a la gente de León le ha gustado. Sí, como tipo Matosas, it can become that. And when Matosas jugó a Libertadores, the first one ever in our history, these were moments that were hacía crecer el equipo. So now I think with Larcamón, man, like I think if he really has an opportunity to take this like team to another level, with these next tournaments coming up, I think it's I don't know. I think it's just uphill for León, and I think it's important in this age.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
So, León, América, en el Azteca. Is that where we're going to see el debut de Diente López and
I hope
Viñas,
so.
both up
like
front?
I said, it just seems like León América is always a what do you call it? A stage for these moments.
Yeah.
Un tipo de momento que debuta Diente López, mete un gol y una asistencia a Viñas, right? Y Viñas mete gol últimos segundos. Stuff like that, like I could just see that being the case.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right, so let's go ahead and go into prediction time, guys. It's going to be double prediction. We're going to predict San Luis and then America after that.
Cool. Prediction time.
All right, who wants to go first? Javier, I know you want to go first.
What? Okay, for San Luis, yeah, close game, man. I think it's gonna be no muchos goles, but I do think it's going to be un 1-2. León. It could easily be a draw, man. To be honest, like just because I feel like se van a guardar todo para el América. Players like which Diente Lopez and stuff like that. But I think this team is talented enough to kind of. It also because they beat us, eliminated us last tournament. So yeah, I want León to irse de San Luis con una victoria. So I think 1-2 is normal.
Sounds good. Louis,
Um,
León San Luis.
yeah. This is a tough one too. I think I'm gonna go with a 1-0. León squeaks out of there with a 1-0. It's gonna be a kind of an ugly, gritty, a game, and with not a ton of offense. I mean, maybe a lot of chances that get squashed before they really turn into something. I mean, it may be a fair bit of back and forth. I just don't think there's going to be a ton of scoring. I think it's going to be a 1-0. León.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Goal by Viñas. Yep.
Nice. I think we're gonna close this one out early, and because it's a doble jornada, I think we're gonna give some of our guys an early rest. By the 65th, 70th minute, it'll be liquidado. But I think San Luis, they're a very, very dangerous team on the counterattack. So I think they'll sneak one in at the very end. I'll go with the 3-1 León. And guys are fully rested and ready to go against America because I think that's the bigger match out of this doubleheader.
Yeah,
so
heck yeah.
We're gonna want our guys to be ready to go. Like if we're gonna use an alternate or experiment with guys, I think it's gonna happen in the first game and not the second game.
Yeah. Also, to add more about the America game, bro. Like we already played Chivas and Tigres, and I think left in the tournament, America is the most important game left in every sense of that word. So I think going out there and beating them in su casa, it's more than. I think, in my opinion, sí son 3 puntos, like whatever. Pero it's bragging, right? It's all my American fans gonna hear from me all till next year. So it's mainly that, man. Like este partido más. Ahora sí que, of course, being de Monterrey, I think that's the other one. But I think other than that, those are the main ones, because I think Toluca, those. But other than that, man, America has to be, especially over there. So
for sure, Alejandro Collazo saying 3-1 win over Mazatlán, but he corrected that with San Luis. So he's also agreeing
with you.
3-1, yeah, and he's also saying 2-2 draw versus America. Arturo Ruiz saying 2-1 win over San Luis.
Yep,
and
I agree with that.
1-0
versus
America.
Caca. Oh, America. I was like,
America.
America, Caca. It's the same thing.
Javier, give me your prediction for León America.
5-0. What? I why not? Why can't you have a 5-0 in El Azteca? No, I think León has everything you said too, man. Of Diente Lopez y lo que puede significar this game and what the rest of the season could become. I think we have to win it, and I think it has to be some sort of resultado contundente.
Yeah.
I think San Luis game could be all crazy and ganar como sea, but I think León is going to win 3-1 or 1-3.
Wow, 3-1. Okay.
Yeah. Va a estar parejísimo, pero León, I think León si sabe bien Arcamón entender que su equipo es muy peligroso con esa línea de 4, un Iván Moreno llegándote mucho más fácil.
Yeah.
I think it's game over with that, man. I think sería un partido muy igual, pero con un contragolpe, con una de esas, con un gol al final, se cae pedazos al América y te clavan otro. I think that's the kind of scenario I see, because sometimes el América en su estadio, we saw it against Chivas,
yeah,
le echa encima,
Louis.
and it's pressure against them.
Louis,
yeah,
your prediction, León América.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point. I mean, when this week is finished, we'll have played Chivas, Tigres, and America already. I mean, who else on the schedule do you really, truly fear besides Monterrey, which is going to be a midweek doble jornada away. So to me, I'm already chalking that one up as a schedule loss. I mean, if something good happens in that one, I'm all for it. But I'm chalking that one up as a schedule loss. Who else? Maybe Toluca.
Maybe that's it.
But that's about it. So we have a really good chance. I mean, if we are still standing in the top, in screeching distance or shouting distance of the top 4 by the end of this week, I think we got a really good chance to finish there.
Yeah.
So this is a really, really, really important week. And, honestly, I hope they take the San Luis match just as importantly, just as seriously as they take the America match, because I think, honestly, they're more likely to get the 3 points out of the San Luis match. I'm still going to predict a win, though. I think it's going to be a 2-1 against America. And I think both Viñas and Diente will score.
Ooh.
They will be responsible for the 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, I think you stole my prediction. I was gonna go with the 2-1 too. I'll go with the 2-1.
Yeah, you guys could go both 2-1. We're not playing. I mean, if we were playing like the game again, like I would have I've been more strategic. Like, what about a 1-0?
Well, I mean, I'd go. To be different, I would go 1-0. But I just think America has too much attacking power right now. Like, I don't see them not scoring. And with our defense, the way it's been, like these first 4 games,
that a little bit though, just a little. I think Larcamón is. See, I think what we're seeing, I don't think Larcamón is like dumb enough to be like, nah, you're tripping. Like maybe he has an idea, un estilo. He está ferrando, but I think he can actually positively see that, dude. Tecillo is much better than Osby on that left. You know, so I don't know. How did he win the Conca? He knows this. He knows it. That's why he's Conca champions. But it's just a matter of maybe he's trying things out. Same thing with Fidel. Ambriz, because he said, I think Louis, you said that se lastimó en los Panamericanos.
I read somewhere today that the reason he hasn't been starting because he was a titular indiscutible down that stretch run last season, and for a good reason. But I read somewhere today that he's been suffering from some irritation. I don't know what kind ever since the Sudamericanos. So yeah,
for sure. All right, guys, let's get up out of here. We're at 1 hour, 2 minutes. Man, we had a really good chat today. Shout out to Alejandro Collazo. First time, I think he said he's been a ghost. Where's that comment? He said, I'm a ghost. I remember being here when this podcast barely started, but afterwards I stopped jumping in here. So
when you say you're a ghost, you're a ghost like in haunted house, and like you were there in the beginning, and then you went back to your ghost adventures, and then you're like in that realm, like time is nothing. So like for you it was like a second, and then you came back outside, and now it's 2023.
Javier, what are you smoking on?
I'm not even smoking anything. That's actually like a real question, bro. Like, it's kind of a ghost, and where are you from? Yeah. That's also interesting because we know the majority of where these people that comment are from.
Yeah, so shout out to the chat.
Arturo
Ruiz, as always, showing up, always showing love, and that's it for now, I think. Yeah, that was it. Hey, man.
Alejandro, further, are you a ghost like in the movie Ghost, or like?
All right, I think
we're good. I've been watching a lot of movies. That's what it is.
I think it's time to wrap.
All right, guys. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Make sure to follow us on all our socials. Follow Louis El Fiero Viajero. He's going to be at all the games. Louis, you're going to be at the America game too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have two hopefully videos from
victory dances.
Yeah, hopefully two victory dances as well. All right, guys.
You gotta do a split or something on the America one. You gotta put a little extra on that one. Do like a little split.
We gotta win first.
Can you?
All right, guys. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. So. Next week we'll be back, hopefully with 2 wins in the bag.
You gotta go train.
That's it. We're out.
Get a personal trainer.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Peace out, guys.
Yeah.